Sherilyn, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook say they welcome some sort of rule setting by Congress, letting Congress be the ones who step in and decide these things. And if you look at it, this is a bipartisan issue. Everybody's mad at social media on both sides of the aisle. However, they're mad for different reasons, and it makes me pretty skeptical that anything will get passed that kind of lays the rules for the road down.
Well, first of all, I should say it's been quite an arc of evolution for Facebook to come to the place of being desirous of some rules. In fact, the position had always been that they did not want to be regulated. That was kind of the red line. And I do believe that these conversations and what has occurred, the consequences of this laissez-faire attitude towards Facebook has perhaps driven them to believe that they themselves would be better protected by some kind of regulation. But you raised the issue that we are now confronting, which is that we are in a period of deep political division. We are unfortunately in a period when there are many people who want to exploit the clicks of Facebook that encourage people to feel hate towards other people. There are people who actually use this as a model for political advancement. And so that will make this difficult to come up with a means of regulating online platforms. That makes it not like the seatbelt. There used to be a time when protecting the American public and protecting our political system and protecting the integrity of our system and standing up against hate speech and violence was a bipartisan issue. And I often worked, across the aisle on those kinds of issues. That is not what we are faced with, unfortunately, today. It is really, and that is not the fault necessarily of Mark Zuckerberg. That is the fault of our political leaders, those who have staked out positions that are antithetical to the core values of our democracy. But that makes it even more urgent for this to happen because there are people who will deliberately exploit the use of these platforms, the way in which the human mind works. We understand the psychology of why people are attracted to this incendiary material and who like the fact that there is the opportunity for disinformation, for discord, and to arouse the passions of members of the electorate. And that's all the more reason for us to lean in and take very, very seriously our obligation as American citizens and for American business to take very seriously the obligation of protecting American democracy. They too have responsibilities as citizens. It's not just about casting a ballot or helping political candidates, but ensuring that the framework of our democracy is strong.
The point's been made that people aren't canceling their Facebook accounts and that as a result, advertisers aren't stopping spending money there. As long as that's the case, it's hard to imagine that things change organically.
Yeah, well, that's why I call it laissez-faire. To the extent we're deciding that advertisers should drive whether or not, content on platforms that reach millions of Americans encourage violence or encourage hate crimes, to me is an abdication of responsibility and political leadership. We have all kinds of rules in our society that might not be the result in the most profitable outcome, but we impose those rules for the safety and protection of our society. And I return again to seatbelts. We have a Consumer Product Safety Commission, where toys for children have to be approved so that they don't harm children. And yet Facebook itself gets to decide whether it's going to launch Instagram Kids targeted at children with no regulation around it. We have the obligation to protect our children, and we can protect our children, regardless of what advertisers want and regardless of what Facebook wants. The question is Facebook in the best position to determine whether or how something like that should be targeted at children? Probably not, because they are a business and their profit margin is what comes first. But it is the responsibility of citizens and political leadership to make sure that we protect American children, and therefore there ought to be regulations that protect children from being lured into a lifetime of this of engagement with a platform that has been demonstrated to actually introduce harm to young people who use it.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.